The observatory's instruments caught the anomaly at 3 in the morning. A faint pulse, narrowband and regular, spiked across the array that watched the moon for micrometeoroid impacts. Analysts expected another calibration echo, but the signal persisted, rising just above the noise floor like a heartbeat under ice. When technicians triangulated the origin, every plot converged on a small crater near the lunar south pole. Thermal imaging revealed a patch of warmth where no sunlight reached. Something had settled there, without triggering the usual dust plume or seismic tremor. Within hours, a secure line linked specialists from space agencies across the world. Sleep-rumpled scientists stared at each other over encrypted feeds, while fresh data scrolled across screens. The feature in the crater was too smooth, its edges too deliberate, to be rockfall. A microwave scan showed surfaces bending radio waves in ways no natural basalt could. The moon, long thought inert, suddenly hosted an enigma that looked engineered. Administrators debated disclosure. Some wanted to release the pictures immediately, citing the public's right to know. Others urged caution, worried about panic or exploitation before anyone understood the object's purpose. After tense hours, they agreed to assemble a covert task force to study the site before issuing a statement. The group would include engineers, planetary geologists, and 2 astronauts trained for rapid response missions. Mission planners worked through the night, refining hardware capable of precision landing in polar shadow. They chose a reusable transport still in testing, stripped of unnecessary payload to make room for analytical gear. A rover, equipped with a spectral imager and ground-penetrating radar, was added despite concerns over weight. Every gram was scrutinized, every subsystem simulated against the moon's cold vacuum. Meanwhile, linguists and mathematicians speculated about what might await. If an extraterrestrial probe truly sat inside that crater, its arrival implied both capacity and intent. The craft's builders would have charted Earth, gauged tides of intelligence, then decided to leave something where curious hands might find it. That logic alone electrified the team. Launch day came less than 3 weeks after discovery. A slim silver booster arced from the equatorial pad, trailing a column of pale fire. Controllers monitored telemetry as the vehicle ascended through clear morning skies, rolled on command, and vanished into upper atmosphere. Minutes later, a second stage pushed the lander toward translunar injection. Engineers leaned back only when separation confirmed and the capsule settled on course. The next 3 days blurred into calculation and adjustment. Mid-course burns refined trajectory, aligning descent with the crater's rim. Inside the crew module, Commander Reyes and Specialist Dana Sue rehearsed surface procedures. They studied diagrams of suspected craft, noting angles where sun could not intrude and spots where sensors showed faint heat. Neither voiced the obvious thought. Something built elsewhere was waiting for them. Orbit insertion at lunar dawn bathed the gray plains in sharp light. From 30 kilometers up, cameras picked out the mysterious object, a dark ellipse half buried in frost. No impact scarring surrounded it. Regolith lay smooth, as though the hull had seeped into place. Controllers recorded pulses of infrared streaming faintly from vents along its flank. Reyes guided the descent module through thin arcs above jagged ridges. Computer voice counted meters as thrusters scattered dust. When struts touched solid ground, the silence of mission control stretched until heartbeats seemed audible over calm loops. Humanity had landed beside an artifact of unknown origin. A small probe released from the lander's bay trundled toward the target, sending back tight shots of its surface. The hull gleamed faintly, a brushed texture that repelled moon dust even as wheels threw grains across it. Measurements revealed exotic alloys, light as aluminum, strong as titanium, doped with elements unknown in terrestrial crust. Embedded filaments traced elegant circuits across panels, pulsing faint blue when sensors scanned too close. Back on Earth, analysis teams marveled at the data feed. They saw no welds, no seams, just a continuous skin curving into shadow. Speculation leapt from stealth technology to autonomous scout, from cultural beacon to dormant warning. Through it all ran a current of pride. Humans, by wit and persistence, had caught the cosmos off guard. Night fell across the landing site. Even in darkness, the object released a soft luminescence, as if aware of scrutiny. Thermal sensors mapped warm veins under the hull, arranged in fractal patterns that resembled branching rivers. Software flagged the configuration as purposeful rather than random. Inside conference rooms, whiteboards filled with conjecture about power sources, hibernation systems, or data caches waiting to be triggered. Engineers proposed a cautious probe of the structure's perimeter. Remote drills could core nearby soil, gauging whether struts or conduits lay beneath. Radiation counters swept for emissions. None exceeded background cosmic levels. Everything pointed to a vessel designed to endure time and vacuum without threatening its surroundings. Psychologists briefed the astronauts on cognitive hazards. Encounters with clear evidence of alien craft might unsettle even disciplined minds. They advised steady focus on procedure, avoiding projections about occupants or motives. Reyes acknowledged calmly, though later, reviewing the glowing outlines in solitude, he felt the weight of epic pressing on his shoulders. At Mission Control, night shift operators compared fresh telemetry with orbital archives. No previous mission, manned or robotic, had approached that crater. Geological maps showed no unusual deposits. The only conclusion left was deliberate placement after humanity began exploring the moon. Whoever left the craft had been watching our rise, waiting for capability to coincide with curiosity. The following day, preparations for a closer inspection accelerated. Plans included high-resolution mapping, ultrasonic pings to reveal internal cavities, and gentle attempt at accessing an entry point if any could be found. Yet supervisors emphasized restraint. Their task was to understand, not claim. International agreements drafted overnight declared to find a heritage of all humankind. Excitement mingled with solemnity as data built a clearer picture. The craft measured 30 meters from nose to stern, shaped like a flattened spindle with subtle ridges along its spine. One end bore recessed rings suggesting propulsion, though residue analysis showed no chemical exhaust. Instead, magnetometers registered frozen flux lines, as if an intense field had once rippled through the frame. By the fifth day, attention fixed on a narrow seam running along the upper curve. It looked less like a door than a biological suture. Microscopic imaging detected molecular flex points hinting at possible articulation. The team debated whether to send a command signal, apply mechanical pressure, or simply wait. Patience won. The artifact had persisted undisturbed for untold years. Forcing entry risked losing context or activating defense. That evening, while sunlight skimmed across distant peaks, instruments logged a faint oscillation inside the hull. Not vibration from external temperature change, but an internal rhythm, slow and steady. Reyes woke from a short, dreamless rest to the quiet click of diagnostic relays. The ship's silhouette still glowed faintly beyond the viewport, its skin absorbing the pale shine of Earthlight. He tightened the seals on his suit and joined Sue at the console. Overnight telemetry showed the oscillation inside the craft to become steadier, as if a mechanism were calibrating itself. Power levels remained low, but sensors hinted at complex circuits beneath the hull, woven in layers finer than spider silk. Sue reviewed their plan in clipped sentences, careful to keep focus on data rather than speculation. They would map the internal layout using low-energy radar, then choose a spot where resonance suggested an access corridor. Robotic tools had been staged outside, each capable of micro-movements that could test surfaces without exerting destructive force. Every motion had to respect the object's integrity. There would be no second chance if they damaged something irreplaceable. At the base of the crater, the rover's mass rose slowly, emitting a sweep of pulses that sank through the alien alloy. A schematic built itself on their screens. Nested chambers arranged in spirals, converging toward a hollow at the center. The geometry echoed biological forms, like cochlea or nautilus, yet lines were as precise as any human engineer's blueprint. Around the periphery, voids branched like veins, possibly conduits or stabilizers. Analysis teams on Earth debated the purpose of each zone. Some guessed data storage, others life support pods or propulsion nodes. Linguists scrutinized a few markings visible near the seam, interlocked curves repeated at intervals, paired with subtle indentations. A consensus emerged that these were identifiers or instructions. They seemed to invite interaction, though none dared treat them as an invitation to rush inside. Slowly, the seam flexed under lunar cold, revealing a fine slit just wide enough for light to leak from within. Sue's breath caught, though her voice stayed calm, relaying numbers. The glow did not behave like standard emission. It refracted against dust motes in a spectrum that resisted cataloging, almost as if it chose which wavelengths to show. Cameras captured every nuance while algorithms searched for meaning. Permission arrived from Mission Control to advance the probe, its arm extended, sensors tasting the radiance. No temperature spike, no radiation spike, only a measured warmth like sunlit stone. Encouraged, Reyes guided the device to press gently along the line. A ripple spread across the hull, each ridge folding back until an opening wide enough for a person yawned into view. Inside, darkness absorbed their beams yet hinted at volume beyond. They transmitted a full feed to Earth before moving closer. Instruments confirmed pressure near vacuum, no toxic outgassing, stable footing. One by one, they crossed the threshold. Boots met a surface softer than rock, but firm, like metal given the memory of cloth. Walls curved around them, studded with nodules that glimmered faintly in response to proximity. Somewhere deep, a cadence like measured breathing resonated through the structure. Working methodically, they unpacked a translation suite. An adaptive AI trained on symbolic systems from archaeology, mathematics, and constructed languages. Its processors compared glyphs on interior panels to logical matrices, searching for constants. Parallel teams relayed hints, primes, wave equations, the ratio of planetary orbits, to feed its heuristics. After hours, the AI proposed that many markings describe orientation and function, power distribution, environmental balance, archival store. Further inside lay an arrangement resembling a dais encircled by slender arches. Transparent film stretched between them, etched with swirling diagrams. A tap from Sue's glove sent ripples across its surface, revealing layer holograms. Images cascaded. Stellar maps, molecular chains, outlines of bipedal silhouettes rendered with startling accuracy. The system seemed to sense their awareness, adjusting clarity so that figures no longer flickered but stood crisp against a backdrop of constellations. Back at Mission Control, scientists erupted in debate over the authenticity of the figures. Some argued they were generic representations meant for any observer, not portraits of the crafts makers. Others noted details, the angle of limb joints, arrangement of eyes, that suggested real biology. Whatever the answer, the display confirmed the vessel carried information intended for retrieval. Power indicators rose slightly as if the craft measured their curiosity. A hum threaded the floor, too deep for ears yet felt in ribs. The explorers steadied themselves, verifying that structural stresses remained below risk. Their instruments registered faint electromagnetic pulses, timed to the heartbeat-like oscillation recorded days before. It was becoming clear that the ship possessed awareness. Perhaps not consciousness as humans defined it, but a program waiting for competent company. They set up a temporary relay inside to duplicate data streams, ensuring no discovery relied on a single path. Bits poured into Earth servers, mirrored in encrypted archives worldwide. Cultural historians, ethicists, and security councils all received filtered access. Some voices demanded they stop, fearing the unknown. Yet the prevailing mood across research networks was measured exhilaration. Humanity's caution had earned respect. Now its diligence invited deeper exchange. At one point, the hologram rearranged into a rotating construct of Earth and Moon, connected by lines depicting gravitational eddies. Around it appeared text-like tracings, slowly matching phonemes to numbers supplied by the AI. A message emerged, halting but comprehensible. An affirmation of observation, an acknowledgement of progress, an intent to leave gifts for species that demonstrated persistence without aggression. The craft, it implied, was an embassy left by travelers whose journeys might outlast entire worlds. Reyes and Sue stood quietly, letting the words settle across private channels. All their preparation, every sleepless hour aligning sensors and rehearsing caution, had led to this moment of unguarded wonder, yet professionalism anchored them. They logged findings, cross-checked translations, and requested guidance on next steps. On Earth, committees discussed ethics of revealing partial texts of public before context solidified. A practical problem soon intruded. The vessel's inner temperature climbed a fraction each hour, hinting that systems were shifting from dormancy. That raised hope of richer interaction, but also risk of uncontrolled activation. Engineers designed a suite of soft commands, modulated light bursts and encoded pulses directed at exposed nodes, meant to signal willingness without assuming control. Reyes transmitted the first pattern, a series of primes bracketed by pauses. Panels responded with ripples of color across the chamber ceiling. Encouraged, they sent geometric references, triangles, circles, the golden ratio. The ship echoed back faint variations, an exchange reminiscent of tuning an unfamiliar instrument. Slowly, patterns synchronized until a new projection unfurled, displaying not only stars but vectors implying journeys. Paths wound from a cluster beyond the local arm towards Sol, dotted with waypoints like breadcrumbs through interstellar dark.